Hello, guys. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. And today I wish to talk about Jane Austen. I mean, in general, Jane Austen's writings are considered to be more, how should I put it? Like, they are very, some people say generally that Jane Austen can come across as it is as if nothing really happens in her books, and nothing really happens in the sense that something drastic or dramatic is not happening, which is not quite true. The thing is, Jane Austen's novels deal with upper class of Victorian society, the nobility, and Austen does not depend upon some adventurous kind of a zeal that the protagonist is going through. She's more into the psychological aspect of her characters, which is the reason why you don't see something like a robbery happening or someone getting stabbed or murdered or something like that. It's more of a very quiet thing. Things are happening underneath. And it kind of reminds me of this movie, The Age of Innocence, because Scorsese says that it is one of my most violent movies. And why does he say that? It is because of the fact, I mean, when you watch The Age of Innocence, nothing violent is going on. It's like the new America and high society. It's basically Regency period. The Regency period is there in the movie, and nothing of an adventurous or dramatic style is happening in that movie as well, even in the novel. But the things are more underneath, like there is an underlying tension. Scorsese says that that movie is the most violent of all of my movies, because the tension is brimming underneath, and that is the violent aspect of it. In his other movies, the violence is shown, it's there on the screen for you to see, but the violence that is brimming underneath, it's kind of more dangerous, or it's kind of more ominous. I don't know, it's kind of more um, unsettling, because you don't know what kind of psychological turmoil a person is going through. And in Jane Austen's novels, things are not happening in the way that things outside are not happening, but inside. For instance, I am reminded of Anne Elliot in Persuasion, in the last scene when Frederick Wentworth is writing that letter, and she's talking to his friend about how women's feelings are more enduring, although men's feelings are more violent and passionate. And I think she guessed, or I think she might have had an inkling of hope that Wentworth is writing to her, although that is pure speculation. But the tension in that novel, in Persuasion, is so much there. Like when the Italian opera scene, we see that tension is there. She has realized that Wentworth doesn't like that she's sitting with Mr. Elliot, who is everybody is thinking, assuming that Mr. Elliot, will marry Anne Elliot, and Wentworth wants Anne. But you know what I mean. Like, Anne thinks that Wentworth likes her, but she's not sure of that, although Wentworth is giving her signs. So the tension is there in Jane Austen's novels, if but it's more under the garb of Victorian civility. And yeah, but the way Austen writes her, it's more like that, as I've talked in Georgette Hare's novels. Austen's novels are also very well structured. Her prose is well balanced. The words used, it's very well structured. It's like a civil engineer who puts each and every brick very well, very precisely. Jane Austen is like that. She is putting each and every word, each and every phrase, as and when required, as and when suitable. It's very particular, it's very well placed, and she knows the craft. I think most of the writers of those times, they considered writing as a very meticulous craft, a craft akin to sculpting or doing embroidery or even playing the piano, and which is the reason why they were so well versed in other things as well. Like Austen used to play the piano very well, and even in the BBC radio drama collection, in Persuasion itself, her pieces, her music sheets are used for the intro music, which is quite interesting. And Austen liked to play the piano. Even in the movie Becoming Jane, you see Anne Hathaway, she's playing the piano and then she's writing. So all of these art forms were treated equally, like they equally in the sense they knew that they have to put in equal efforts. It's not like sculpting is something which is a very, you know, typical thing, and writing is something that you just can write. And I feel that even the writings which seem very simple, like the 20th century writings, they are more easier to read, I suppose, as compared to Dickens and all. The writers of the 20th century also put a lot of thought and mind into reducing their words. So we shouldn't think that writing is well done, even only if the words and the phrases are long. Anyway, without going into the tangent, let me talk about Austen's works. And I suppose I should begin with Pride and Prejudice because it's the most known work. And frankly speaking, I did not read Pride and Prejudice before reading its abridged version. I had everybody had this hype about Pride and Prejudice, but I was kind of overwhelmed before reading Pride and Prejudice because I thought, God, it's a big text, and I was 19 at the time, but I thought I should give it a try, and then I read it, and then I went on to read the unabridged version. In the beginning, I was not very well, how can I say, I was not very well impressed. But then, after listening to the audiobook version, the LibriVox version, narrated by Elizabeth Klett, my thoughts changed. And after reading, and then after that, I went again and read the text again. And over the years, I have started to understand why Jane Austen is considered to be the greatest authors of all time. Her text is something that could be a very well piece for psychoanalysis, and it's interesting that when you read a text any number of times, you are always questioning whether the author means this by this line or she means something else. Like for instance, the first line itself, it is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a large fortune must be in want of a wife. Now, that's a simple enough sentence. Some people might think that, okay, Austen is stating a fact. Yes, obviously, that's the truth. And she's just saying it like that. She's being a little cheeky, but she's saying it as a matter of fact. But maybe she is being sarcastic also. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a large fortune must be in want of a wife. And maybe she's not really impressed by the fact. Like she's in opposition to that fact. She does not, she wants that notion to change, but she knows that can't be done. So it's kind of like her agony I mean, there are multiple interpretations of each and every line of hers. And even when you go and read the novel and see Charlotte Lucas's situation, wherein she marries the pompous Mr. Collins. In the beginning, when I read it the first time and I was younger and full of romantic notions, I was like, what is she doing? This is not right. She should marry for love, blah, blah. But after, I'm sorry for the informal tone, But after pondering about it, and after so many years, I have started to think maybe Charlotte did the best she could do in her situation. And I think Jane Austen was aware of the fact. You see, I have noticed this thing about Jane Austen in Pride and Prejudice, that Elizabeth Bennet is the protagonist of the story, and we are in Elizabeth's head, and we are rooting that Elizabeth should be right. She's like the sensible one. She can see through people's guys, like she could see through Miss Bingley's guys, that she's not as sweet as she says. And we are like, yes, Miss Bennet, Elizabeth, Lizzie, she is the correct one, and we should be with her. But when the novel draws towards its end, we start to see that Elizabeth too can have some faults in her judgments. She's wrong about Wickham. I mean, she Elizabeth, being a girl of such sensibility, she too is kind of impressed by Wickham's charms. She's blinded by his charms, so much so that her judgment lacks there. And she couldn't see that, Wickham, who goes on to marry for money, she forgives him actually. I mean, when she comes to know that he is going to be engaged to Miss King, she is like, okay, it's fine, it's his, he needs the money, he's a man of the world. But when Charlotte Lucas is also doing the same, she is not so generous, I suppose. And this is something that happens. So she is somewhere, her judgment lacks. I mean, yeah, this is my theory. And also, at the end, we see that Darcy, although he had faults of his own, but Elizabeth jumped to all these conclusions, and she was not, how can I say, she was not very fair to Darcy, just because she did not like his temperament. Also, she although and the other thing is that she and Jane both decided not to tell about Wickham to everybody in the neighborhood. That was also fault of judgment in their part, because had they done so, things could have been easier, and you know Lydia might have not eloped with Wickham, but who knows. But my point is that Austen gives us room for interpretation, and she puts down the fact that even the protagonist, whom she's presenting it to be the wise girl, the street smart girl in the beginning, she can also have some lapses in her judgment. And this is something that is quite interesting. And Austen teaches us to question things, to look at a certain thing in various ways. And this is something that I have begun to, this is the reason why I have begun to like Austen more and more. Every line of her text has something to say. It's like a, it's somewhat cryptic in some ways. Like her texts, her phrases can be cryptic because they can be interpreted in various ways. And the ultimate charm of her writing, like, English is not my first language, but when I have completed an Austen novel, I feel that okay, my English has suddenly improved, because the English that is written, the high English language that was used in those times, and the charming, the gentle way in which the dialogues were spoken, even those times, it feels very nice. It feels very proper. The polite way, everything, the aesthetic of Austen's world is also great. I like this thing about the Victorian era, that people used to have times fixed for everything. Like, they were doing self-care and therapy without knowing that they were doing that, because they get up in the morning, they go for a walk, for a horse ride or something, come back, have breakfast, then some backgammon games and stuff like that, read out to each other, enact plays, do these fun activities. And it was quite nice. They were having these organic ways of passing their leisure time, learning the piano, learning other skills, learning embroidery. This aesthetic is something that I really am attracted to. I really like, which is the reason why I read Austen's novels, because I like the world in general. Also, I like reading about upper class people who don't have really big issues. Like, they are not very hard hitting issues. Like, if you read Margaret Atwood book, and in which descriptions of really dark subject themes are there. So those are the things that when you don't want to read about dark subject matter, you can go and read like Jane Austen. Jane Austen was like a chick lit kind of a literature, I think, in those times. I think one of the YouTubers said that. And yeah, so this is something that I have been thinking about, and these were some of my thoughts. And if you liked my video, thanks for watching, and I will meet you all in the next video.